Welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture podcast. I'm Miguel Covarrubias. This month we are discussing The Haunting of Bly Manor, the second in the Haunting anthology series on Netflix. Thank you so much for listening. I do truly appreciate it. Please review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Today we will be talking about the meaning behind each ghost, well, according to me, interpersonal relationships, and signposts rather than stop signs. Of course, I'll also share the Saints of Show at the end. Before we get into it, some updates and announcements. Don't forget to go and support Kathy's amazing venture, Home Sweet Bakery. If you're in the East Cleveland area and need cakes, cupcakes, or pies, Kathy's got you covered. She makes delicious treats at reasonable prices with delectable decorations. Season 1 of The Lost Letters is wrapped up, so go and check it out on your favorite podcast platform. Speaking of which, our son, Peter, wanted to do a Palmcast with his daddy. So there's also St. Peter's Shorts on your favorite podcast platform. Go and check it out. It's less than 2 minutes, and I assure you it is the most adorable podcast ever. All right, let's talk about The Haunting of Bly Manor. Aside from Ari Aster of Hereditary and Midsommar, and Jordan Peele, who we'll discuss a little bit next month, I feel like Mike Flanagan is quickly becoming the master of on-screen horror. While Bly Manor isn't as scary as Hill House, it certainly gets under your skin. The biggest standout, as was from Hill House, for me was the acting. Victoria Pedretti's Dani was very similar to Nell from Hill House, but quickly carved out her own character and personality distinct from Nell. I have to applaud Pedretti, as that is extremely difficult to create a unique character from the same base parts. Oliver Jackson Cohen's Peter Quint is drastically different from Luke Crane, and also I was going to mention his amazing Scottish accent, but it turns out it's his actual accent, so yeah, but anyway, good job on that. Those were the two standout characters from Hill House, were Luke and Nell, and I think they knocked it out of the park again. So, newcomer Rahul Kohli absolutely stole my heart as Owen Sharma. He was brilliant, and in this limited screen time, he absolutely made you forget that he was on iZombie and made you wish that his character actually existed so that you could go to his restaurant and just listen to his stories. And don't even get me started on Nia Miller. She was just, wow, heartbreaking and inspiring. This season is definitely worth your time if you are a fan of horror or not. There are themes throughout Mike Flanagan's work of Forever Home and different things like this that remind me of Henry James himself. Henry James preferred to apply these eerie and sinister stories to the normal and easy. Where Hill House was very much about familial relationships, Bly Manor is about extra-familial relationships. I love Mike Flanagan's work. And Mike Flanagan, Jordan Peele, and Ari Aster will definitely be the Hitchcocks of our time. They're ushering in the golden era of on-screen horror, whether it be on television, movies, or other platforms. I really feel like those three are bringing us to a new understanding of the horror genre. But again, that's just me. Human beings are social creatures, but the scariest thing in most cases are relationships with other human beings. Alright, what I'm sure you came here for, though I do hope you stick around for the rest, the symbolic meaning of each ghost of Bly Manor. Each one shows how we limit ourselves in relationships with each other. And let's start with one that I have some stretch meanings for, but I know pretty sure about the surface level stuff. And remember, all of these are based on my own feelings, so it's not confirmed or not yet. If somebody wants to go out and bring this to Mike Flanagan and confirm these for me, that would be fantastic. Just let me know what he says. Edmund O'Mara, or as I call him, Glasses Ghost, represents Dani's guilt at leading on her best friend and not fully coming out to him, almost marrying him to avoid the humility of coming out. This accidentally led to his death, which in no way was Dani's fault. But as a form of self-flagellation, she carries that guilt like a millstone around her neck, weighing her down. Ultimately, this guilt leads her to stop connections with others. He tends to show up when Dani feels she's getting too close to someone. It is her guilt that prevents her from going any further and revealing her vulnerabilities to someone. Okay, as far as the stretch, I think he can also symbolize traditional relationships. I'm calling this a stretch because I'm basing some of this on his name similarity to the primary character of Limitless, Ed Mora. Where the film Limitless was a very neoliberal ideal of commerce, this is sort of the neoliberal ideal of relationships, where the girl next door and the boy next door fall in love, get married, and have a planned out traditional American life. There are hints at this being especially when Dani starts to get close to Jamie and his haunting there, but maybe the connection to Limitless is the stretch, and maybe the rest of it is there. I'm not sure. Let me know. Henry's haunting of self is pretty evident, and a call out to Henry James's other novella, The Jolly Corner. Again, this ghost is a representation of guilt, but also the personal demons that go along with that guilt. He ruined his relationship with his brother and couldn't have a relationship with his daughter. In the end, he needed to face his personal demons in order to move on. Rebecca Jessel is one of the ghosts that I felt bad for, and also kind of felt that she brought on a lot of this herself. So, for me, I feel that she represents being distracted from personal goals by the pretty and destructive things in life. Sometimes relationships are just toxic, and people are really there to take advantage of you. No matter how charming and romantic a relationship may seem, it may not be the best thing for you. Which brings me to Peter Quint. Mr. Quint represents fully that imaginary currency that we place in relationships. This can be seen through his hell of reliving that moment with his mother and her just using him for money. He never really learned how to treat other people as anything other than possessions, as this was modeled to him by his parents. This is ultimately what makes him toxic. He sees Miss Jessel as a possession to own. Even if it is on a subconscious level, he was incapable of loving her back. As his love, as Jamie points out in episode 3, I believe, was ownership. Miss Jessel may have loved him, but he couldn't return that. He went on to possess poor Miles when he could no longer possess Bex. Hannah. Oh, my Hannah. Hannah represents denial. A denial of one's own position in life and denial of one's own feelings. She let this denial keep her from happiness with Owen. She let this denial of what was going on with her husband in a way to convince herself that her feelings were not important enough to feel. She let it bury her in her work at Bly. Hannah is kind of all of us. Or maybe I just feel it on a deep level of trying to convince myself that other people's feelings and desires were more important than my own. Hannah. She broke my heart. Viola, who was the surprise linchpin ghost of the manor. As was commonly said about her, she was a gravity well. Her stubbornness to not accept change caused others to be stuck. If I really thought about it, I could name people like this who, unless they get their own way, which more often than not is the status quo, bad things start happening. Viola had a bad lot in life, and she did make the most of it, though as the world started to change around her, she refused to accept that. And when people can't accept change, it often prevents them from having real relationships with the people around them. She definitely was a complicated and complex character, and she represents that inability to accept change. All right, for the minor ghosts, I'll try to do rapid fire. Perdita, which is Viola's sister. The attic ghost represents the inability to accept others as they are. The plague doctor, showing off the fashion of 2020, represented the protecting of oneself from others, leading to one's own demise in relationships. The doll-faced child, the scariest ghost. I have to say, I couldn't watch that scene of Flora putting the mask on him. That just creeped me out. represents not allowing children to be themselves and forcing them into who we want them to be. And finally, the one that Kathy said I shouldn't include, but you know what? All of these are based on my own research and feelings, so here it goes. The soldier. The soldier represents not protecting yourself when you really should be. I'm basing this on him showing up a lot at the times when Peter Quint is showing up and when he's being his most kind of possessiveness. So I know that's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyway. So relationships, and specifically romantic relationships, are at the heart of Bly Manor. We learn so much from these relationships and how we can survive the fraught landscape that is modern relationships. As Rachel Leishman from The Mary Sue put it, Bly Manor is sadly a lesson in two parts. Tell those you love while you have the chance, and embrace every moment with people you care about while you can. Both Owen and Jamie show true and complete love, and how the many ghosts of our relationships past can prevent those we love from being either fully with us or never being able to fully reciprocate that love. We as an audience watch these couples orbit each other and the mistakes that the couples make with and for each other. For some, like Rebecca and Peter, it's a toxic relationship from the start. You can see this from the outside, but when you're caught up in the emotions and the charm of such a relationship, your blinders are on to what's really going on. And so it was for Rebecca. And Peter, I'm sure, had no idea that he does this to people. For others, like Owen and Hannah, they have their own problems and concerns that prevent them from being honest with each other about how they truly feel. They're often stopped by their own wanting to put the needs of the other before their own, that they can't fully consent to letting the other into their lives to see their vulnerabilities. As Brene Brown put it, staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if we want to experience connection. Then the relationship like Jamie and Danny's. There's a love that is deep between the two, but it's not complete. This is partially due to the darkness that lurks inside Danny. Jamie tells her that she loves her despite this and will take the risks of being with her. It's still something that Danny cannot risk, as she cannot risk hurting Jamie. And this is in a very real and physical lasting sense, which is why we can understand this hesitation and ultimate sacrifice that she makes. However, looking at our own lives, we can see how there is that darkness beneath that we can't share with our significant others, as we fear the pain that it may cause. This pain is emotional and much lower risk than actual physical risk of injury or death. And if your significant other is putting you at physical injury or death status, you need to get out. From the pitfalls of these relationships, we can take a lot of truth from this fiction. We can see how those who came before can even have an effect on the relationships of now. Consent is a big plot point in Bly Manor, and this is the chant that allows the possession. It's you, it's me, it's us. This is a lot like a relationship and allowing someone into your life. You have to allow someone in emotionally to really be in a relationship with them. You saw power imbalance and what that did to people with the possessions. Peter would tuck away Miles quite a bit, and Miss Jessel would tuck away Flora, and then with Danny allowing Viola in. And that weird kind of almost equal exchange, which is seen in the different colored eyes. It wasn't until Viola's stubbornness arrived back in the forefront that when change was occurring in Danny and Jamie's lives, that the power shifted to Viola. Danny, as a last-ditch effort to save her very real relationship with Jamie, made the tough choice to take one for the team, as it were. She blocked the well from trapping other people again. And this can be seen in all of these different relationships and what's going on there, and that the consent and allowing somebody in to see those vulnerabilities. One of my favorite moments from Bly Manor is around the bonfire. Owen gives a speech about his mother, and honestly, the acting in that scene, it reminded me of a quote from the first episode of this season of This Is Us. Beth gives insight from her father that says, "It's the tragedies that define our lives. They are the fence posts on which the rest of our lives hang." Honestly, while I was writing this, I could have sworn it was something that Owen said during this scene. He didn't. But the way that he remembered his mother and talking about how they smoothed over all of her at the funeral, I mean, that's kind of what happens with death. We tend to forget things, and the small things like the winks at the table. Almost all that amounts to a life are those sad fence posts that we can remember. I thought a lot about that quote in context of Bly Manor. In fact, I even had a dream this past weekend where I said something similar in a homily that I was presenting for a funeral that I didn't know a thing about the deceased. Anyway, the dream is a different story for a different day. What I said in the dream, though, I think applies here to Bly Manor. Death isn't a stop sign. It's a signpost. It points us in new directions and helps us define the paths our life should take. For each of these characters, it defined different paths. Some better, some worse. Overall, for the children and Henry, it was a good one. It was a good signpost. If we take anything away from this series, I hope it's that we can be better in our relationships. And when they end, they aren't gone, nor should they haunt us. They are the signposts that teach us how to be better, and we can look back on our own hauntings, our own ghosts in our lives, and be able to see that they're pointing us in a better direction. This month's Saints of Show, we actually have a few. So, first from Anna Sovacool on Instagram, she says her Saint of Show was Hannah, that she did her best and didn't get to live her dream. So, Saint Hannah. Next, from Creating with Camille podcast, they said Rebecca. In the end, she had to stand up to the love of her life and protect the innocent. Even if she didn't get everything right, they liked that she still felt so conflicted. So Saint Rebecca. And my saint would have to be, I bet you can guess where this is going, Saint Owen. Owen loved the family, and he did his best despite his struggles. He was genuinely himself. And that scene at the bonfire where he's talking about his mother, that, she loved him and that she was heavy. Even though she was small, she was still heavy on him. And it was beautiful, beautiful. So anyway, that's for me. So St. Owen. Now, don't forget to join the conversation. You can do so on Facebook and Instagram and our website, www.patronsaintsofpopculture.org. If you like your Saint of Show shared, please let us know either in our DMs or comment on the prompt that's going to be posted on social media shortly for next month. Remember to review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Next month, I'll be talking about Lovecraft Country. Until that time, be you. It's all you got, and it's all you can be.